Today, I want to honor the women that surround me, the women checking in with us today for Mindfulness Monday. It's also important to acknowledge that this discussion might resonate with many, however you identify as a woman or recognizing the feminine that resides in you. In trying to come up with a topic for Women's Health Awareness Month, so many topics came flooding into my mind. As I started to sift through topics on health and well-being, ways our mental and physical health are connected, postpartum depression, anxiety, chronic work stress, I started to see a common theme in why some of these difficulties are occurring and some of the reasons that maybe we are experiencing some of these things. There's this term used by some called the good girl syndrome. It's not actually a syndrome, but it's a term some might use to describe a type of woman. Characteristics that are developed in growing up trying to be a good girl. I wanted to share with you a few characteristics that many of us, not just women, might carry as part of our personality, such as politeness, to be compassionate and caring toward others, to be kind, all of which can come at a price to our own voice or at the sacrifice to our well-being. Some examples of these characteristics and how they might manifest in us might be things like us feeling compelled to say the right thing, to be politically correct, to check in on others and how they feel about your life choices, our worry or concern for others' well-being above our own, or not asking for what we deserve because maybe it's not polite to do so. It doesn't go along with being good as far as our persona goes. Maybe feeling that your kindness is taken for granted by others, or maybe even taken advantage of at times. Now, I'm not saying these are bad qualities. They can be qualities that others admire in us, but they're also characteristics that have maybe held us back from doing the one thing that keeps us going, and that's taking care of ourselves. As I started to take note of what being a woman in our world today meant, I recognized how this role or this characteristic of giving to others and having to fit into this box of society's expectations of what a woman or a good girl should be, that when trying to engage in self-care, we often are able to find a way around it, an excuse as to why it's not important. The issue is this, that if we don't allow ourselves the necessary measures to take care of our body, our mind, our spirit, it's inevitable that we will suffer the long-term consequences in both our mental and physical health. It's more often than not that in my practice, I'm teaching what self-care is and how self-compassion can help in allowing us to engage in self-care. Making time for ourselves and being able to sit with the guilt that this stirs up, and learning in that process to give permission to ourselves to reap the benefits of this much-deserved self-care. People are always going to ask you for help. It's inevitable. And while for many of us it's in our blood to do so, there's nothing wrong with this. Helping others is good. It's good for the soul. Unless you're tired, wiped out, exhausted, maybe you've heard the term burned out, it's impossible for us to say yes to everything and everyone. So learning to put yourself and your well-being first is what will impact your health the most in a positive way. If we give and don't allow any room for that giving to be turned inward to focus on our well-being, then we have depleted the bank and have nothing left to give to ourselves. So the result of this is that we end up not being able to help or to give to anyone else either. Often what we're doing to control the outcome in some way inadvertently gives us the opposite result. Hence why saying no sometimes is good for the good girl.